found an old CD of the Elders. And, well, actually brought it. It's in the CD player.
I don't care what you do. I'm working. I'm surprised you didn't strike up a closer friendship with Brett when he was doing tango. Brent. The guy that did the fiddle violin. I tangoed.
Well, I guess I just wasn't. I think I would now.
No, I mean, it was just a big question. I just, like.
Well, if I
given how much you've always liked them,
yeah.
And I don't remember you ever associating or doing anything with him, and I would have known them way before me.
Well, I should have seen that as a
But it doesn't, I mean, it's not a big deal. Ooh, I wonder if they're in Casey. God, Ann looks so old. Of course, Ann is old.
Yeah.
Out, you can do the String Break Tour cruise. It goes to Belize, Cozumel, Costa Maya. It's a festival at sea aboard the Majestic Princess, January 25th to 31st. The traveling Mercury's, Gaelic Storm, Scythian, Top House, Shadowgrass, The Elders, Jig Jam, Socks in the Frying Pan, and Armchair Boogie.
Well, it sounds like an Irish music. I don't know how any of those other groups sound, of course. I don't even know how the Elders sound now.
Huh?
I said I don't even know what the Elders' current sound is like. They seem to be sort of trending away from what you hear on this one, and I'm sure I like them as well.
And then they're doing an Ireland tour the middle of November. Come on. Of course, maybe they might be just all but retired. But I see they are playing it in Leewood June 19th. South Dakota, June 26th. Kansas City, Missouri, June 28th. Iowa, August 1st. August 2nd. Montana, August 8th. And 9th. And then we're pretty much into the Irish Fest.
Well, it sounds like that's actually a busier schedule than I might have imagined.
Yeah, I thought they had retired, but
Well, they did retire and then they unretired.
yeah. So anyway.
So, well, I'm glad to hear they're still active.
So, this coming Thursday, which that tells me Cynthia must be in town. I'm almost sure Michael told me that they'd be in town this weekend, and then she's having an event Thursday at Bobby's. And then Friday evening at a pizza place, St. Peter, Cottleville, I don't know, somewhere up in there. It's the going away party for Jason and Janet. Dr. Janet.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean
okay.
next Friday.
Yeah, because they move over the weekend, that weekend. Got that down for June 18th, okay.
Yeah, I mean the traffic flow and everything seems about like it always has been, except for the issues at the gas stations.
I don't know. going to go hang out with Michelle, Jimmy, and watch Jimmy's boys play flag football. Just sort of the way I expect things to go. I mean, that's what Beth does. Even when Aaron made this special trip out here, when Donna passed, and I came through so I could go to the funeral, and then I drove straight down to Joplin all in one day. Drove out here, did the funeral, had lunch with Libby, drove to Joplin. Aaron came out like the night before so that she could go see Johnny's family. And yeah, Johnny must not been in. Where was Johnny? But anyway, oh, maybe Johnny did come with her, but he stayed at his parents' place. I don't know. But nevertheless, and she was going to go see Beth, and Beth said, "Oh, I'm taking whichever dog was with her. I think she had all the dogs, but one of the dogs was going to go do a special training session with this equivalent to Olympic dog trainer." So Erin had to rearrange her schedule, and I think she did eventually see Beth, but it was briefly. But she did go see my dad. She did go see the Critchivers. But yeah, that's Beth. But anyway, oh, maybe Johnny did come with her, but he stayed at his parents' place. I don't know. But nevertheless, and she was going to go see Beth, and Beth said, "Oh, I'm taking whichever dog was with her. I think she had all the dogs, but one of the dogs was going to go do a special training session with this equivalent to Olympic dog trainer." So Erin had to rearrange her schedule, and I think she did eventually see Beth, but it was briefly. But she did go see my dad. She did go see the Critchivers. But yeah, that's Beth. Now, when I know someone's coming to see me, my nature is to make sure I'm there an hour or two ahead of time in case they show up early. And like that, I'm trying to get the house clean. I'm trying to do so many things before Amber gets there.
I definitely don't get your sister.
You, honey, there's no way, even with a tiny bit of logic, one could get anybody in my family. They have no social skills. They don't understand what I would call norms or how people interact with each other. I mean, I thought you were sort of borderline with that when I met you.
I was.
But I just figured, oh, it was just buried in there somewhere. Because I could also see that you did have some sense of, the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do. And not that one should be going through life. I'm not talking about going through life and pleasing every Tom, Dick, and Harry, which is my nature. But just... Okay, so we have about an hour and a half. I think visit with him for a while.
I might hold off on that.
Why?
Well, because I can see her bringing Jimmy and Jim and all those around, and I really don't want to see them. I'm here to see your dad.
Yeah. Well, should I? But how do I know? We haven't made it clear to her what our expectations are. See, that's always a problem of mine. Why can't I put out my expectations?
Okay.
Like,
well,
Jim and Kim aren't coming over, are they? I can say that easily.
Okay, say that.
I'm putting, how fun. I'm responding to her flag football. How fun. The Duffys are going to Dad's at any point, right? Because again, Aaron and I were shocked. We figured out where the place was. You know, we got there mid-afternoon, sort of like we are. I was in touch with my sister. She was there with Andy. And she said, this is where I'm parked. You can see the car. So I got the car. I saw her car. I parked. Like, her car's here. I put my car there. Thinking, oh, if she needs in and around the van, I don't want to be sitting next to her. The first words out of her mouth, she came out. I was walking in, and she said, where did you park? I said, right there. Well, why didn't you park up here next to my van? Just thought that would be easier for everyone. I don't know. And that's when Aaron gave me the look like, oh my God, we're not hardly out of the car. And then we got in. Again, we go in, we visit with my dad just for a few minutes, and he says, well, we're going to go down to the dining room area. I was like, well, sure, I mean, whatever you want to do. And he said, Beth and Andy had a birthday cake for him. And I said, oh, okay. So she shows me where the dining room is. We pull over to the side. She had said to me on the phone, before I had gotten there, oh, I have a last video of Mom. And I said, oh, well, that's great, but I don't want to see it. I mean, because my mother was down to like 80 pounds. I mean, really horrible looking. And I clearly said, oh, well, that's fine, but I don't want to see it. But, yeah, I mean, if that makes you happy, that's fine. I get there, and I thought Aaron was going to scream. Because, of course, my sister pulls me aside, she flips open her phone, and I don't know what she's doing. I said, so what is this? And it's the video of my mother. And this is the only interaction. You can hear Kim's videoing her, and Kim saying, Mom, or Eileen, tell Beth you love her. And my mother saying, I love you, Beth. That's what they videoed. That is what my sister wanted me to see. Now, I didn't care what the interaction was. None of my business. But I didn't want to see her. Like, I didn't want that to be like a last memory. I mean, she didn't look, I mean, she was awfully skinny, but I got to see her 6 months before that. Which, again, was a horrendous visit at Kim's house. And Aaron was with me for that. Oh, and Dana was with us. But anyway, so then, after seeing that, I just thought, Beth, you're such a fucking bully. But that's not what I'm here for. So I said, well, I'll go ahead and make sure Dad's in the dining room okay. And you can get the cake. You and Andy can, get whatever you need to get. And then she said, oh, yeah, this is perfect timing because Jim and Kim are showing up right now. And I thought, where do Jim and Kim fit into this? I came out to see you, and I came out with Aaron and Danon to see my dad. But it's sort of like these people that need to orchestrate. I know quite a few people that need to control everything that's happening and orchestrate and manipulate people so that it looks the way they want it to. And yet I get told I'm controlling and I have too high of expectations of people. Like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. But again, I didn't say anything. I thought, okay, my choice right now is I could walk out, but that would be a little childish. Okay, I'll just say hello to everybody. No one spoke to me. I think when Kim left, she said, well, there's something like, well, there's no need for you to keep being a stranger. And I just smiled like, well, okay. And Michelle didn't talk to me. I did talk to the two little boys a little bit. And they also have a little girl now. She was crying mostly. She was a baby. And I spent the rest of the time with Aaron and Danon, and at some point I said, well, we're going to go. We're going to let Danon swim at the hotel for a while. And then we met them the next morning for birding. Or not for birding. After Aaron and I went and did a little birding, we met Aaron and, not Aaron, we met Beth and Andy for breakfast. I wanted to meet just for coffee. He wanted to go to this one place that had great reviews, and I said, well, it's going to be crowded. I know that place. It's on Metcalf. I know that place. And we went. We had to wait. And Andy and Aaron end up sitting there talking about pot a lot. Because Andy smokes pot. And it made Beth furious. She wasn't furious at Andy. She was furious with Aaron. I said, Andy's a big boy. If he doesn't want to talk about pot, he doesn't have to. They're having their own conversation. Talk to me. I mean, who cares? But anyway, I said, how fun. The Duffys aren't going to Dad's at any point, right? And it's delivered.
I'm here to see your dad. I'll deal with whatever it is.
Yeah, well, we'll see Dad for a little bit, and again, I have nothing to lose with this set of people at this point in my life. Should my sister try to manipulate this, knowing how I feel, well, fuck her. She's crossed off the list. My brother and sister-in-law and nephew,
Well,
they're already off the
Yeah,
list.
they're already.
So Beth can join them should she want. I feel like I'm a person with pretty low expectations. I mean, other than I like people to treat each other nicely. I don't like to have a lot of drama. That's why I try to keep my mouth shut.
Well, you're not big on manipulating.
Well, no. Because if anything, I'm big on almost trying to be in tune with, oh, I can tell this person's uncomfortable in this. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, that's a much better way to be. It's a much better way to be than trying to make it look like some creep. Yeah, and if Beth doesn't want to talk about how she and he's not making her, and she's like, I mean, if he wants to talk to Aaron about it, fine. If I want to talk to your dad about something, his family that doesn't interest anybody else, but it interests him, that's okay.
Yeah.
If he wants to talk about my videos, I'll talk about it.
No, all he wants to talk about is himself and old pictures.
Well, that's
that's fine.
yeah, that's fine. I'll talk.
But that's also why there's no way I can come out here and spend a week with my sister. We have nothing to talk about. She's not into birding. She's talked about getting into caching.
Well, I could talk to her about dogs.
About what?
About dogs.
Oh, yeah. And I hear so much about the dogs. Mind you, every conversation I have with her is at least an hour, if not 2 hours long. And I'm not sharing anything on my end. She's not interested in my trips. She's not interested in what my friends and I do. I don't talk about Aaron. I don't talk about Jennifer, other than, she knows what's going on. So when she asks every time, I just say, oh, no, we haven't heard from Jennifer. I don't expect it.
We don't expect nothing.
Huh?
We don't expect nothing from her.
Well, and I
even
find...
basic courtesy.
Well, and my dad knows nothing of this, so we're not talking my family with that family.
About Jennifer disowning us.
Yeah, why would my dad know? Because if
I won't talk about it.
no, we don't talk about that at all. If he asks, well, how's Jennifer doing? Good. She's busy with work, the kids. Because that's not a lie. She is busy with work and the kids. And then I change the subject. If Beth brings it up, you can bet she's going to get slapped in the face with, oh, and by the way, Joey. So I don't think Beth would have said anything to my dad. But who knows? And I definitely don't think Aaron did. So, we just don't talk about it. It's like, oh, those are people in my life, but yeah. I mean, it's just like Sandra has this habit of, we could be talking about my kids, her kids, Reese's kids, Linda's kids, whatever. And let's say I say something like, oh yeah, Aaron's got to take Dana, she has to turn around and go back the following weekend, whatever it is. And, well, why does she have to do that? Oh, well, you know, I mean, that it's part of the court order. Yeah, but why does she have to take it? Why can't he just get on a plane and go? And I said, you know, he's so, at that point, he's only 10. I flew my kids places by themselves some day were there. I don't know what to tell you. It's what Aaron and Andrew feel most comfortable with. I don't know. Well, that just doesn't make any sense to me. What the fuck difference does it make? You know.
Well, whether it makes sense, to her or not. You know, if airlines allow certain people to fly and others not, then that's how it is.
I find it interesting that Beth has not responded. Now she could be driving.
Well, you have said everything, but don't even fucking think about it.
Well, and again, I try to stay fact-based.
But you've made
And the facts are, Jim and I have nothing to say to each other. Beth has been here since Wednesday night.
And
She could have had Jim come over anytime.
right, and Jim and Kim and Jimmy can see
Yeah,
that
whenever.
whenever they want. And
Right.
we're making a special trip, as my mother would say, a special trip. And so they don't need to be there for. There's no
reason for them
because
to
there's
be
no
there.
reason for them to be there. It's not like either of us wants to see them. And I don't even think Beth likes them.
Beth doesn't like them. That's my point too.
So it really makes no fucking sense for her to even think about it.
But to add to the craziness, so Aaron said something like, well, it doesn't matter when you go out, you won't have to deal with Jim and Kim and everybody, right? And I said, well, I shouldn't have to. And I said, and it's not like Beth and Jim are that close, and they don't go to see my dad. And Aaron said, oh, I thought Papa and Jim at least got along. And I don't know how he feels about Jimmy, but I thought Uncle Jim. And I said, what makes you think that? I said, my dad's trying to sue or is suing my brother. And she said, well, that doesn't make sense, Mom, because Papa was telling me this story about Petey dying. My mother's parrot, or cockatoo, whatever, cockatiel, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Well, he died. So Aaron's texting me from my dad's and says, oh, Papa wants you to know that Petey died. I honest to God had to stop and think, Petey? Do I know somebody named Petey? Pete. Maybe they have a friend Pete. And she just, typed it wrong. So I responded with, the bird? And she said, yeah, the bird. So then I said something like, oh my God, I didn't even know the bird was still alive, let alone died. And I sort of laughed about it, and I said, must have been an old bird. So Aaron asks my dad, so how old was Petey? Trying to make conversation with him. He can't remember, so he takes a wild guess. She types that to me. And I didn't know. He gets on the phone and calls my brother and asks, so how old was Petey? Aaron said she was sitting there during the conversation, which led her to believe that there weren't any issues between my dad and my brother. Because Papa just picked up the phone and called and said, well, how old was Petey? And then she sent new information to me, which, I'm pretty much not paying that much attention to. But her point after the fact was, well, I didn't pick up on any hostility. I said, well, did anybody come around while you were there? She said, oh, no. And I said, well, this is what Beth tells me. Beth tells me that one person's suing the other, they hate each other, they're all fighting over money. Jim thought Mom's will was supposed to be submitted to the courts. He thought the courts submitted I will. And I had said to Beth, what? She said, exactly. He was named executor of Mom's estate, whatever that means. I mean, I know what it means to be executor. And he's been sitting, not doing anything, since she died over a year ago. And Beth just said something about, paying bills and did they ever get the will taken care of? And Jim said, well, the courts haven't done anything yet. And she said, well, what do you mean? Is it held up for some reason? He said, well, they haven't filed anything. And Beth said, you need to file it. You need to file something with, with the death certificate and all that to the court. My brother didn't have a clue. So now that my sister is executor, the other crazy person's estate, I just don't want any part of this. I feel like I'm doing the pat on the back, I'm being a good girl thing. And then I'll spend 2 or 3 weeks in recovery.
Well, let's hope it's not that.
It always is, though, John. Why would the pattern change?
But I can tell you now why I didn't make more of an effort to get to know Brent.
To go to know who?
Brent. The elders.
Oh, okay. I think his name is Brent.
I think that's right. Well, Brent.
Brent.
Hope.
I think it's Brent.
Yeah, Brent Hope.
Yeah, Brent Hope. Yeah.
I had not gotten beyond my mother's little voice in my ear. Nobody that famous would want to have anything to do with you. Why?
But why? I mean, he's not famous, really. They were a startup Irish band.
Well, I would do it differently now. But that was something I had to do a long time.
So how would she have ever explained her daughter's success, her son-in-law's success? They're semi-famous people. I mean, I'm not famous, but I don't give a rat's fucking ass.
Well, they were never famous when my mother was alive.
Well, yes, I know that. I'm asking, well, how would she have? But I totally get that. That's also that era.
I mean, we had a neighbor who appeared on Johnny Carson, and the fact that she appeared on Johnny Carson meant that automatically she wouldn't want to be friends with my mother.
Well, but that's how my mother was. My mother sort of knew how much people made. People that sold insurance. Now, I'm sure that there are some wealthy people out there that are in insurance. The typical run-of-the-mill salesman is not a rich person. I mean, they may be doing fine.
State Farm agents, though, are rich. State Farm agents apparently make a staggering amount more than anybody would ever think.
How do you know this?
From several sources.
Okay. Well, nevertheless, must not be so for Nationwide. And I remember my mother turning down, and my dad would get furious because there would be some kind of a little event at someone's house, either in Boardman, Austintown, or Poland, which were like other burbs of Youngstown. My mother, I think, went once. Well, they looked down their nose at me the whole time. I said, but why? I mean, even then, as a kid, I said, but why? I mean, did you do something? Well, no. But they make all this money and they just think they're too good or better than us. Well, it wasn't until I got my degrees and I heard each of my parents make comments in my presence to other people about how I just think I'm too smart for my own good or whatever. She's such a smarty pants. She just thinks she's just smarter than everybody now. But at least I was old enough to sort of think in my head, well, actually, I probably am more intelligent than most of the people in this room. Not to my credit. But you would think somebody would be proud of someone's education. Proud of their...
Well, my parents, listen, they can be faulted for many things, but being proud of their children's accomplishments, however ordinary or regular they were definitely that.
Well, I'm not talking about your parents. I'm talking about my parents.
I'm saying that most parents are, and that's very disheartening.
I remember sitting at my parents' kitchen next to where my brother lives, you know, that little house. And we're sitting around the little table. This must be obviously years and years and years ago. But my brother was always used to stop over and get coffee. And just have coffee over there. And I was over there one morning. And my dad's goading my brother about, tell your sister about so-and-so. Tell your sister about Frank, whatever it is, whoever. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Who's this Frank? Oh, well, he's a good friend of mine, and he just finished taking a pretty high math class. Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
Oh my God. And I said, oh, okay. Is he going to be an engineer? You know, I'm not knowing where this is going. Their point was, they thought he was exceptionally brilliant, that he took a trig class and got an A in it. Did I ever take a trig class?
You taught trig.
And I looked at them and I said, are you kidding? No, seriously, Sally, did you ever take a trig class? I said, well, you know what? Technically, I didn't, because I tested it into calculus, and all I had to do is go make up the work, almost like a summer thing, to get credit for that trig class. But no, I actually didn't take a trig class, but I've taught many. It was like, what the fuck? I come over here but this is a normal visit with them. And then my sister went on for years. She was telling people that I was an English major. Now, I did start off as an English major when I was like 28.
Well,
25.
Not to make excuses, but for some people, well, I don't know how she would confuse math and French with English.
Math and what?
Math and, well.
How would you confuse math and English? You just don't even follow conversations, I guess. And it's not like she mistook it once. She mistook several times. She said, oh, Sally's got some kind of a fancy degree in English, and I said, I don't have an English degree.
I mean,
I said, I have a mathematics
well, I mean,
degree.
I was just thinking about how if you told Beth what kind of dog you have, that would stick with her because she knows them.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
With birds, like I didn't remember. I barely remembered that your mother had a bird. Would never have remembered if it was a cockatoo, a cockatiel,
Well,
a
John, I
parakeet,
barely remember.
a parrot.
Yeah,
It's a bird.
Yeah, I get that.
So, but I remember that your dad had a King Charles Spaniel because I know a little bit about dogs. And so, well, to people who don't have college, it's like whether you majored in history, English, philosophy.
Yes, but see,
it's kind of all the same.
here's one of the big fights with my brother and my sister. At one point, because Beth does think she knows everything about everything, and especially if it's in the medical field. Now, why she thinks that, I'm not sure. Does she know more than you or I do? Oh, absolutely. I don't even care to know most things in the medical field. I don't read articles. I don't care. Sort of to your point that, yeah, if it's something you're not in tune with. Well, nevertheless, Beth was wanting information like on my mother's tests or something. And Jim said, but you're not a doctor. You don't need this information. And Beth said, I have every right to this information. And I do understand.